hopefully you'll find them interesting. And Anjali, oh my goodness, thank you so much. I want you on tour with me every time so that I have tech support and just good spirit support. All right, without further ado, thank you so much. And also, what I said earlier still stands. If you are getting the munchies, I know it's late at night, please help yourself. I won't be glaring at you. Please just go and make use of all this food from the generosity of the English department and the Kirk family. All right, we will go ahead and start off. I have this video that I want to show you. There's so much pressure now on this little frog. All right. This is I don't know if anybody knows. Does anyone know what a pebble toad is? No. Anybody? Oh, here we go. The biologist, of course. Are you a biology major? I'm not. You just happen to know pebble toads. Okay, great. Well, for everybody else except these two, here's a new introduction on these, and then maybe you'll find something new and exciting about the pebble toad. This is one of my favorite frogs on the planet. Hopefully, I didn't check if this has volume, or maybe you can hear it.
On a mountain plateau, a mile above the jungles of South America, lives another daredevil.
Yeah.
The pebble toad is only a few centimeters long. This little toad can't hop, which could be a problem when it comes face to face with its arch enemy.
I like the music is like very Lord of the Rings. And the exclamations, I love hearing the exclamations of tension and drama and stuff. I don't know if you could hear, but there was some like Lord of the Rings type drama music. It was so intense there that watching this pebble toad.
Rule them all.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, let me see. Let me start this next part here. Let's go. Oh no. Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, let me go back. All right. Nobody expects a toad to survive a tarantula attack. But because the pebble toad does something so wholly unexpected, it curls into a ball and tumbles down the mountain, it survives. And in the process, it lands somewhere entirely new. I tell my students this all the time. What people don't expect or understand about your life path might very well be your superpower. Notice the toad didn't just fall into a puddle and stay there. She climbed back up, a new way up into the mountain and into the sunshine. I've been that pebble toad more than once. Picture this. Let me see that here. You're looking at Ohio football royalty in front of you. I'm Western Ohio's version of Friday Night Lights. Has anyone seen that TV show? Or maybe it's too old, okay. And not as a cheerleader, not someone sitting on the bench, but you're looking at the first ever female football mascot, which was a battling beaver. Yes, I know, thank you very much, thank you. When I told my parents that I wanted to do this, usually it was a male basketball player in the off season. Not only did I not tell them that I was trying out for it, but that I won the position, everybody had to sign a, what do you call it? Like a waiver to not tell who the mascot was until homecoming. But they knew that I was always going for football games, and I deposited the costume at my friend's house. Finally, I really wanted them to see me in action. Their horror was cinematic when I told them. My mom, I remember one of the things, my mom was swearing in Tagalog. My mom's from the Philippines, and I don't understand a lot of Tagalog, but it was basically, we did not come to this country so that our daughter could be Mickey Mouse, They didn't understand what mascots were at the time, that kind of thing. So all they knew, all their frame of reference was Mickey Mouse. My immigrant parents wanted a doctor. So I entered college as a chemistry major on the pre-med track. But at family parties, I learned early that saying, I want to be a doctor just like mommy, would earn applause. As young as this, I would walk around and just tell people I wanted to be a doctor because I knew that meant I would have no bedtime and I would get more dessert. And sometimes I would even get applause for that as well. So I say all this because nobody told me I couldn't be anything else, but they also didn't really encourage it as well. Well, my parents, though, what they gave me, unbeknownst to them, they gave me curiosity. They always made time for libraries and gardens, for the stars above Arizona. Their love language was wonder. And still, I stayed the course until organic chemistry. Is anyone here taking organic chemistry this semester? Phew, okay, I was gonna have to give you a hug after or something like that. For me, that was the most difficult course I've ever taken in my entire life, actually, to this day. And one night, frustrated in the study lounge, I spotted a handout left on a table, and I didn't know what it was, but the title of it was called Mint Snowball. I read it, and it felt like the top of my head came off. And there's a quote, I'm gonna butcher it, it's from Emily Dickinson, that says, if I read something and it makes me feel so cold no fire could ever warm me, I know that is poetry. If I read something and it makes me feel like the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry. A hockey player down the hall said, oh, that thing? That's for poetry class. And I was like, poetry class? You mean there are classes where you get to read more of these and write your own? And this poem, Mint Snowball, is actually from the author Naomi Shihab Nye. She was the first living poet I ever met in my life. And that was junior year of college. I took all the AP, everything. Nobody, no teacher, and it was a good high school. Nobody ever thought to share with us that there were living poets. So you can just imagine, I guess I said it in class earlier, so forgive me, those of you in class, I feel like they were doily makers, maybe you know that someone is out there making doilies, but you don't know who they are, or that it's even a viable job. That's how I felt about living writers, that kind of thing. And within 48 hours, I dropped pre-med, I dropped organic chemistry, I dropped out of every single pre-med club that I was in, and I declared English as my major with no possibility of a job, no plans of attack for what to do with it. I just knew that if I did not study and read more poems, I would not be able to breathe. It was that dramatic. The next week was spring break. Who here maybe has a friend or is on the pre-med track? What test are you supposed to take junior year if you're pre-med? The MCAT, yeah. It was more like M-Splat for me. I went to the movies with my best friend, and I cried through the whole thing because I realized I might have made a terrible mistake. And at that point, spring of junior year, if you don't have a major, you're in trouble, basically. And so when I got home, this is again spring break, my parents had cooked a celebratory dinner for our future doctor, that kind of thing. They were like, you studied so hard, you must need some time. Oh, yes. Did I knock it over to you? Yeah, no, good. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. I'll touch on the keypad for a little bit to make sure. I couldn't couldn't take it anymore. You're looking at like an honor student, never did anything like wrong, never like rebelled against my parents. This was my rebellion basically, but it wasn't really against them. It was just something that I felt like I needed to do. But after dinner, I confessed everything. So my father wept. My South Asian, stoic Indian father wept. I've seen that man cry 3 times. One, when he was walking me down the aisle as a bride, tears of joy. Another time, tears of joy when I handed him his first grandchild. And the third was weeping tears of despair when I said I wanted to be a poet. And I smile and laugh now, but it was a hot mess, basically. You can imagine the whole week of spring break. They were, again, arguing. My mother was just silent. And for a Filipino mom to be silent, you know that there's like a tsunami coming, you know. I could hear them arguing in the night, in the kitchen, and, you know, it's like, I could hear you. We're all in this small house together, but I could hear my mom say to my dad, "This is all your fault. You let her be Mickey Mouse, and now she wants to be a poet." You know, she never forgot that everything happened once I became a mascot, you know. And the next morning, so I cried myself to sleep, thinking they're disowning me, da da da. The next morning I was supposed to go back to college, and my father sat me down, and I still get choked up when I think about this, because in 400 years of Nezhukumatahils, nobody was anything but something in chemistry or science related or medicine something, even if they were the village medicine person. I was the only one in humanities and books. And anyway, but it was for my dad who put a stop to that and you know, kind of gave me that permission. He said, I can't do his beautiful accent from Kerala, but he said, "Aimee, your mother and I are very worried. We have no idea what you're doing, but if you promise us you will find something that makes you feel like a student for the rest of your life, you have my blessing." And that's the moment, folks, when I started to climb back up the mountain. I had no idea what kind of future I was building, but I knew I couldn't breathe without poetry. And in my own small way, I was rewriting what was possible for the next generations on both sides of my family. And again, still to this day, my aunties in the Philippines and stuff, actually some of my aunties in India, they're all like, this, because I was the oldest grandchild, you know, my daughter's in, you know, conservation because of you, or my daughter's reading because of you, you know, that kind of thing. And I was like, good. Eventually, my parents came around. They are now my biggest fans, to the point of utter embarrassment. When I first appeared in a high school AP textbook, sharing a table of contents with none other than William Shakespeare, my mother said, "See, she is equal to Shakespeare." I'm like, "Mom, okay, chill out." Let me switch on and then I'll sing it again. Let me see. I forgot to do it. Oh, there we go. Great.
Actually, what is it?
Sorry. No, that's great. Thank you. More than anything, my parents taught me that wonder, curiosity about the natural world and about each other, is how we survive. You see, wonder is not frivolous, wonder is vital, especially for people of color, for people who are differently abled, for anyone who's been told they don't belong in certain places, like classrooms or forests or even this country. When we share what we wonder about, it becomes contagious. It builds empathy. It reminds us that we are interconnected. And when we normalize seeing a variety of people in the outdoors, in literature, and my goodness. There we go. When we normalize seeing a variety of people in the outdoors, in literature and nature writing, we are literally helping people survive. Because lives are at stake when we erase people from our collective imagination. That's part of why I wrote World of Wonders, to picture people who aren't usually represented in the outdoors, to make space for tenderness and astonishment. And I always tell my students, you don't have to start big, you can start small. Start as small as a firefly. I want to make sure I'm not stepping on anything. Write in a journal what you're curious about. Ask yourself, what do you love? What do you fear? What do you wonder about? Honestly, those are 3 questions that a lot of times people will talk about that in maybe high school and stuff like that, and then once they get to college, to check in with yourself. So check in with yourself and ask yourself these 3 questions. And share that maybe, if you're feeling brave. Share that with your roommate, share that with a friend here at Agnes Scott. Create fellowship around your answers. Because when we share wonder, we feel less alone. And I'm going to say that again. When wonder is a practice, you feel less alone. Sometimes I ask audiences to dim the lights and turn on their phone flashlights. I won't do that because I'm just nervous about all the technology here. But imagine this was all dark and we had our phones up, like at a concert or something like that. Imagine that as a spark of wonder. One light isn't much, but together we could fill this whole room with a constellation of curiosities. There's so much we still don't know about this world, but that's the good news. That's what keeps us alive and learning. As the cellist Yo-Yo Ma says, each day I move toward that which I don't understand. So my life advice is 3 simple things. Here you go. You can take notes, you can, whatever, that kind of thing. Here's the magic, how you survive college and the years beyond. 3 things. Floss your teeth. And I know it sounds crazy to give you hygiene advice, but teeth, your gums are connected to your heart. And that's a big way of saying, get yourself physically healthy first. I know it's funny and cheesy, but also just great to have nothing in your teeth, that kind of thing, and that protects your heart. So floss. Number 2, always say thank you. You can never say thank you too much. Show gratitude. Take time to actually do snail mail, thank you notes, that kind of thing. It's free. If you don't have access to a thank you card, fold a piece of computer paper, and I promise you will make someone smile for free. And the last thing is be curious. When you feel lost, when you're not sure where to go, be like the pebble toad. When you tumble, and you will at some point, even if you think you haven't so far and you're all good, you know what your major is, you will at some point tumble and fall. But remember to roll with grace. So remember our little pal, our pebble toad gal, I call her a gal, I don't know. Even after a big tumble, after big uncertainty, she ends up back into the sunshine at the top of the mountain. When the pebble toad decides to pursue a curiosity, when the pebble toad comes face to face with an obstacle and seems to have comically, spectacularly fallen so far away from what is expected of her, maybe for you this might mean a job shift, or a life change, or a new skill, or a job to learn about, or a move to another part of the country. Just remember this. After the pebble toad's tumble, she is rewarded with an unforeseen and oftentimes surprising new path. Here it is, folks. The world is full of wonders. All you have to do is just remember what it's like to let yourself be astonished. Strive to be a student of something for the rest of your life. Don't be a know-it-all. Stay tender. Stay astonished. Because the curious are never lost. They're simply finding new paths of wonder. I just have a couple more things here. This is for students. Okay, this is all great. How do I actively do this? Go to your library. Go to your bookstore. The librarian's here. It is still, that was my place. It was, like, I kind of joke, we did not have literature in the houses growing up, and the houses I lived in growing up. We had all kinds of medical books and science books, but for literature, I had to go to the library. And it was kind of maybe, again, unbeknownst to them, the best thing that they could do, because it made me think books are so precious. To this day, I refuse to be in to make a home where I don't have a library in it, where I don't have like a wall of books, that kind of thing. So make libraries your friend. Get lost in something, be it the wives of Henry VIII, or, I don't know, medieval torture devices, or dinosaur bones, or shells. Find something that, 12-year-old you was so astonished and curious about, and maybe revisit it now as an adult, that kind of thing. See if you still feel that excitement, or if you learn something new, Get outside, off screens. I sound like a mom when I'm saying this, but it's true. I said this before I ever became a mother. Learn bird names. Can you name 5 birds that are here on this beautiful campus? If not, no judgment. That's something easy to do. You can train yourself to learn 5 birds that are here on campus. Do you know, can you identify 5 trees? There's a tree map on your website. I don't know if anybody's done this. And my first day here, I was following along the groves that are just outside the arch, the gate. Those are all rare and special trees. If you just keep walking by and all your brain says is tree, then that's okay, no judgment. But you can also start small. Just learn, see if you can, like, every year, every semester, learn one more name of a tree. Just one more. By the time you're finished here, you know 8 new trees, you know, that kind of thing. Can you identify 3 cloud shapes? These are all small. I think what happens is, where it gets overwhelming is, someone's like, I have to learn all the names of all the birds in Georgia. No, there are ornithologists who don't know that. So why would you do that as a sophomore Agnes Scott student randomly in gender studies? You know, like it doesn't compute, it doesn't make sense. So start small and see where that leads you. And then lastly, this is for anybody, whether or not you feel like you're a writer or not, just get a blank journal. All it takes is like 50 cents for a composition notebook. And just draw what you see. Learn to use pencil again, so you can hear the when you make mistakes. That's a good, comforting sound. If you guys remember, I mentioned this to my classes earlier. If you remember when we were all learning to write our names, it was all capital letters, A, I, and there was so much audacity in whatever you wrote. Even if you didn't know what a tiger was, you're gonna draw a tiger. Like, be fearless like that again. I can't tell you how many times in college people are like, I can't draw, I just don't want to draw. That didn't stop you when you were in kindergarten. How many of you drew self-portraits or family members that maybe make you laugh now, but you didn't hold back then? So get back into like writing in block letters and drawing without apologizing, you know, that kind of thing. A sky journal is basically just describing the sky. Literally, you do not need to be a writer or artiste. Just see what you see when you look up. And when I say look up, it's better than looking down, because down you're too tempted, oh, my phone. But the phones are never up, so look up and then just record what you see, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then lastly, just a couple things in case people want to know, and I've told her this already, and it's weird, we send Christmas cards to each other now, but to me she's like the rock star of my world. The poem that literally changed my life is called Mint Snowball. You can look it up. It's often in AP tests and stuff like that, but there's PDFs all over. I read that and it was like, poof, I changed my life literally for it. And then that's my stuff. I wanted to switch over real quick. I wanted to make sure, how much time do we have? Because I want to make sure we have time for questions too.
I don't know. People may have to leave at 8, but
At 8, okay.
yeah.
Let me...
But maybe not everybody. I don't know. So,
Yeah. Anybody else? Just go a little bit, just a little. I'm going to do very, very small, just so you can see a little bit. Some of you studied this or read it for class. So I wrote a book called World of Wonders. It was originally like bedtime stories for my then 6 and 9-year-old kids. When I revised it, though, I was picturing my grown-up friends, I was picturing my parents, I was picturing my husband. But I really wanted to go back, this is going to age me, but in the 70s, the books in the library did not have photographs, digital photographs. They all had like one-color illustrations at best. So my dream was to write a book about the outdoors, but to kind of pay homage to those books from the 60s and 50s that had one color, if that, and it was an illustration. And what I loved about illustrations for science is that it always made me want to look up, like I couldn't wait. If I ever saw a dancing frog, if I ever saw an echolot, you know, it didn't hinder me. It wasn't like, oh, I wish I could see a picture. If anything, it just made me more curious about what this animal really looked like or not. And I found this incredible illustrator on Instagram, this Japanese-American illustrator named Fumi Nakamura. And y'all, I have to tell you, when I was growing up, I never saw a last name like mine or Nakamura in any science book. And so I'm so happy. I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that she was fully recognized. I always talk about her because Asian Americans were just kind of absent from the world of literature about the outdoors. It's so weird and so strange. I know, like my sons don't even register how that's even possible, but that's not that long ago where you could not find anybody who wasn't white straight in the science aisles of the libraries or bookstores and stuff like that. So I'm always proud to see Nezhukumatahil and Nakamura on the books as well. Anyway, she's an incredible artist. I wanted to show you too though. There is some benefit. I'm not anti-screen, I'm not anti-photos, but I wanted to show you the illustration that Fumi did is in the book, so you'll have to buy the book if you don't have it already. But the real deal, I just figured this is how we all feel at this point in the semester, I think, like shell-shocked a little bit. This is the Potu, oh here it is, I have the picture. This is the Potu at night, just looking perpetually like they drank way too much Mountain Dew. But then what I love is that's a mama Potu and the baby who's just supposed to be like, they camouflage themselves. They're one of the only animals that camouflage themselves. They're nocturnal animals, but they camouflage in the daytime. And so they're just meant to be, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you would actually really truly think that it was just part of a branch or not. And I just love that the baby is supposed to resemble like mushrooms growing on the tree. So cute. If you ever Google in like Potu baby, you'll see the baby isolated. It's so cute. It just looks like random mushrooms on a tree branch. So I wanted to showcase that. And then that's it there. So thank you so much. Oh, and I wanted to, last thing, and then I want to open it up for questions, and I have mango stickers for water bottles or laptops for anybody who asks a question. And if you don't get a chance to ask your question, come see me, and I brought my whole thing of calligraphy markers, so I will calligraph your name. You could buy a book for your grandma or your mom or your crush, and I will sign whatever you want me to sign in that book and be done with holiday shopping right there. But I wanted to give you one little thing. In this collection, World of Wonders, is still the Potu chapter is the one chapter where I still get how shall I say fan mail, for lack of a better word. I say that with like tongue-in-cheek because I do get the most emails from people saying, this was so fun, I didn't know about this bird, da da da. But for whatever reason, I live rent-free in senior citizen ornithologists' time who are angrily emailing me often like from 1 in the morning up, and they should be asleep by then. And I'm not trying to be ageist here, but the reason why I'm mentioning this is because they're very much like, this is the wrong bird call. You did not make this correct. Audubon says it is like this. And I'm like, well then you read a book and put your own bird calls in it. You know, that kind of thing. But they usually have like expletives or weird like go back to your country. And I'm like, you mean Chicago? So I say that.
Give me your addresses and social security.
I know, right? I know. The Scotties will have my back. But when I look them up, they're all over 68 years old, and they're all just angry. How dare that I talk about birds, and that's their subject matter. Angry that I have a different way of doing a bird call. So the petty part of me is a Capricorn. Any Capricorns here? No, you're all too sweet. Oh, cute. We never forget. And so I made it a point to always mention that, you know, whatever you feel like that you just love, you know, like lean into it and don't let anybody else like dim your light or anything like that. I will also say that I have hundreds of people that have witnessed my bird calls and cardinals talk back to me. Like, I cannot make that up, nor would I ever want to, because I would be found out very easily on that, you know. So I wanted to just do, because I promised some of the students here, my own bird call, and I'll take questions. So there's 2 bird calls in this essay. One of them is the Potu itself, and this sounds like, I'll just read from here. It is, the call of the Potu is what you would get if you combined a tiger roar with a frog croak if both animals were in severe gastrointestinal distress. So here's my version of the Potu, and it goes, out of ornithologists, but the one that really gets the some roundup is when I do the cardinal. And this is the one that I have proof. You can ask any of my friends. My publishers fact check me. I have videos of this as well. So the end of this essay is, this was one of the only secrets I ever kept from my husband. He didn't know that I could talk to cardinals until about 10 years into our marriage. And by then it was only an accident. I'll set the scene. He came home from work early, and I was chatting with a cardinal in our backyard. And I turned around, and his mouth dropped open. So here we go. These conversations were a secret I kept even from my husband, until one late spring day, he came home from work early, only to find me in the backyard having a lengthy discussion with a riled-up red cardinal and his mate. Both birds were perched up over my head, had seemed to enjoy our chat, but then their metallic chirp sounded more and more insistent, and I have to admit, maybe I answered back a little too glib, and then poof, they burst from the tree and ended our talk right then and there. When I turned around, my husband's mouth was frozen open. Reader, we had been married a decade, and this was the first time he had ever seen me do this. I'm certain it's not any magic in my mouth, no special twist of tongue that only I have unlocked, but I think it's in the quiet way you settle into the crook of a tree trunk, the still and slow down of your heart in a world that wants us to be quick and move on to the next thing. The secret in talking to birds is in the steadiness of each limb as you make your way into their territory, in the deliberateness of each of your movements, in the bend of tree branch and grass blade. And just like the potu, who is rewarded for her stillness by having her lunch practically fly right into her mouth, perhaps you could try a little tranquility, and perhaps find a little tenderness in your quiet, because who knows what feather gifts await. And I will end with my cardinal call, and this brings all the cardinals to my yard, so here we go. Hurdy-gurdy, 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 hurdy, hurdy, hurdy-gurdy, hurdy, hurdy, hurdy-gurdy, hurdy, hurdy-gurdy. There you go. It's the dorkiest party trick ever. So, anyways, so I just wanted to share with you that's alternately the thing that I get the most fan mail about, also the most hate mail over as well. But they're never from college students. The college students love it. It's just angry folks who are not used to seeing names like Nezhukumatahil and Nakamura and sell quadruple the books that they've ever written, that kind of thing. So I thank you so much for being such an amazing audience and for being so patient with my technical difficulties in the beginning. I have mango stickers for y'all for any, and some of you might have to go. Oh my gosh, I'm breaking stuff too. Here we go. Who wants to ask a question? I always say no question is too big or too small. Who wants to start us off? Get the first mango sticker for your laptop or water bottles. Yeah.
How did you discover you could make bird calls, specifically the cardinal?
Oh, that's such a great question. I didn't read, if I didn't have all that technical difficulty with the computer, I was going to read the entire essay. In the essay, I talk about, my dad, I just think of him as in his early 30s, trying to corral two rowdy daughters, and in my dad's culture, dads didn't really have a whole lot to do with daughters. And so he's absolutely so unusual, at least for that time period, in spending so much time with us. And he got me a bird call whistle, and you need to put water in it. And then eventually I just didn't need the whistle anymore. And so I just learned how fast to do it, how slow. And this is in Chicago, suburban Chicago, and cardinals will be all up in the yard. People driving by would be looking what is all this red over there? Oh, it was just 6-year-old Aimee on the porch talking to them. And but I didn't really learn to do it without the whistle until maybe 4th grade, 3rd grade. But yeah, that was all from my dad. And what's so amazing is that there are no cardinals in India. So he learned that. What I find so special about both my parents is no matter where we lived all over, and we moved around a lot, they took the time to learn about the flora, the animals, and stuff like that, even while at the same time they were treating mainly white America, helping them breathe, helping them with their mental problems. My mom was a psychiatrist before she retired. Oftentimes facing weird, like racist microaggressions and stuff like that, and still they love this country so much, and they love the animals and plants of this country so much. So I think they were kind of doing their own thing in some ways. Like their parents were happy they were in the medical field, but nobody could have guessed that my mom, the doctor, would be learning about apples, that kind of thing, and how to grow them, or how to she'd never gardened in her life before she came to America. So they learned all this stuff as they were coming to America and figuring out how to deal with their 2 daughters who loved American pop culture so much. Yeah, great question, thank you. Yes, in the back.
This might be a weird question, but I also adopt parents, so do you have a favorite medical condition?
Oh,
I'm just curious. To think about or learn about or write about.
I do actually. It's funny, and it's called FOOSH. Does anyone know FOOSH? FOOSH. It's an acronym, and do you know what it is? Oh, okay, I thought you had your hand up. I was like, that's amazing. You're gonna die laughing. It's FOOSH, FOOSH, and it's falling, something, oh gosh, now I'm blanking on it. Falling something outstretched hand. So it's when you basically like slip on the ice or something and you break your hand, or you break your hand because you break your fall with your outstretched hand and you just slam it against the floor. That's FOOSH. So I love that. Actually, I've written about that too because I just thought that was the funniest acronym.
Writers of Dr. Parents should go.
I know. All this stuff. These are the things I was reading about, and unbeknownst to my parents, I would be using it in my writing later. So, yeah. What else? Other questions? Yes. And I'll get your sticker to see me in the. Or if you want to come up, go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
Eva sticker.
So cute.
I know you talked about how you sort of made a third quarter decision to switch into English and were like very fulfilled and followed through on that. How did you find yourself navigating that unfamiliar terrain, and what advice do you have for someone who might want to go into publishing work or writing professionally or teaching?
Yeah, absolutely. Your perception is so on point, it's not even funny. I really did not know what I was doing, but that's where the humility comes in and the vulnerability. I was not afraid to ask questions. Once I decided I'm not going to be a chemistry major anymore, it's not like my parents were giving me advice on English or what to do or how to write a paper or anything. I always loved reading, and I always loved writing secretly. But as far as like actually writing papers, I did it enough to do it, for a test. But all the things of how to study, how to read, everything, it was crunched into my senior year, basically. So I was very much burned out, as you can imagine, fitting a English major into 1 year. And what I don't say in my talk, but I always want to keep it real with everybody, especially college students, is I was so burned out, I actually took 1 year off after I graduated, which made my parents lose it again, because they were like, I thought you wanted to be a poet, how are you not, like in their mind it was get the degree and then be a poet, write a book, like immediately. They didn't know MFAs, they didn't know grad school or anything like that. And then to make it even more crazy more stressful for immigrant parents who had like super high expectations, and nothing is wrong with this at all. But then I said, oh Mom, I got a job at the diner. I'll be a breakfast waitress after graduating with honors from my college, but then I was a breakfast waitress. And again, nothing wrong with that at all. I made so much money in tips, but I just also knew that I needed a break from the the big theory and all the books I was reading galore, but it was the best decision I ever made. I knew I wanted to go back. I knew I always wanted to be in the classroom, but I made friends of my professors. I asked them questions. Tell me your origin story. And I started to see what are the commonalities with my favorite professors, what are the commonalities of the professors who were hot messes. Sorry, but it's true. The ones who were having affairs, the ones who had drinking problems. Yeah, in the 90s it was a whole thing. That would never happen now because of social media, but in the 90s it was like, we absolutely had professors who would stumble in and be like, all right, what do you want to talk about? And it was clear they had not been home. It was, very sketchy. But I still was asking questions and like, you know, became a student again. I mean, it's so cheesy because as a teenager, the last thing you want to do is say, Dad, you were right. But he was so right. Find something that you want to be a student in and it'll never feel like work, you know. What feels like work in my job is like assessment, paperwork, stuff that has nothing to do directly with like what goes on in the classroom. But the teaching, the reading and leading discussion, that's my dream. I was on fire for that. I just needed 1 year of a break. And then once I came back to once I entered grad school, I basically have never left a college. So, but I did need 1 year in a diner, and so I want to be honest about that. I saved a lot of money until I was 100% sure that this is what I wanted to do, and I basically have never left a college campus. So, yeah, thank you for asking. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh my goodness, so many. And those of you who got stickers, just see me at the end so that I'm not doing that. Let's just go from the front and move our way that way. Yeah. Hi.
So I truly enjoyed Peacock doing that in World of Wonders.
Oh, great.
Specifically the segment where the teacher has you change
Oh
your
gosh, yeah.
beautiful picture
Yeah.
over to something entirely different. How have you navigated advocating for your own work in a space where, whether it be an editor or even one of your fellow colleagues saying, well, I don't understand this, why is this relevant, why is this important, like, why can't we just disregard this?
Oh my gosh, I love that question actually. It's so great. It actually kind of the answer to that is in the sticker. It's like my little like symbol for myself. I know it's so cliche with South Asians and Filipinos to have the mango, but for me, in graduate school actually, I don't even remember. Can you all hear me too? I'm stepping away from the mic because it feels so weird. I don't want to do a lecture. I wrote a poem and it was in grad school and it mentioned a mango and then we had like 15 minutes to discuss my poem or 20 minutes. The whole discussion was not on the poem itself, but whether or not, and I was the only person of color in that room, the discussion was whether or not to footnote a definition of what a mango is or to put the word mango in italics because it was, I guess, at least to them in their mind, not a common fruit. And I just remember so they were like, I don't know if people know what a mango is, so I think if we just footnote it, it'll be okay. You know, and the whole time, and I was like looking to the teacher like, help, can you know, because we're supposed to be quiet, asking for anybody to navigate away from anything else. Can you tell me if the title works? Do you not like my last stanza? Anything. And it was just all like, I just don't know. Mango should not really be in a poem if you're not going to define the mango. And it was, so not going to lie, I went home and cried because I was like, they don't see me. This was just, it wasn't even the focus of my poem. In my mind, I thought everybody knew what a mango. It wasn't like I was saying cherimoya, which is a rarer fruit, I think. It was definitely like you could buy it at Kroger, or you could buy it at Publix. You know, to me, if it's at Publix, it's fair game. You do not need to footnote it. And then I got over it. In
They were
like,
college students. These are
oh yeah, these are graduate students.
There are graduate students who are arguing mangoes are.
Well, this is the 90s. I don't know.
I mean,
Before social media.
What the?
Yeah. So anyway, I had my moment of despair. I had it's the equivalent of group chat, but it was my friends, my actual in-person friends who were like, you're better than that, Aimee, da-da-da. And then really after that was the last time I ever felt bad about whatever I was writing about or making or anything like that. And so to me, I just tripled down on it, that kind of thing. Because I knew that feeling from Peacock. It was so familiar again. And I was just like, I'm just going to put an end to it right here and there. And so the mango for me is just like my own, no matter how I feel, I'm not worthy or I need to be quiet or not advocate for myself or anything. I just think of the mango. And that's, so for everybody else, find your own thing that you don't need words on. You just see it. Maybe it's a picture of your grandma who never got to go to college or something like that. Let that be your source of strength rather than a weakness. So now when I see the mango, I smile with so much power, not feel like shrinking or anything like that. Yeah, I love that question so much. Yeah.
Okay. saw you earlier, and I specifically was waiting for now to ask this question.
Sure.
But out of all of the chapters in World of Wonders, the one that I felt I related to the most was Touch Me Nots.
Oh, okay.
And I love the last paragraph. I'm probably going to say it wrong, but you say something along the lines of, let us choose who touches us not.
Yeah.
Something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just like a very visceral reaction because it reminded me of conversations with my parents would be like, you would freak out when someone that wasn't us or your grandparents would try to like hug you.
Yeah.
So personal space and touch has always been an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know how you came to see it as something that you could embrace and talk about and like put as like place as a boundary as opposed to feeling weak or defenseless where it's like, why does no one understand me that I just don't want to be touched or I just don't want to be touched by you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. You know, all of, not just that situation or that, I'm hesitant to even call it a problem, it's a preference, you know, that kind of thing. Any drama I've ever had in my life could be explained easier, not from Oprah, not from any self-help book, but from the natural world. I just find the metaphors there, I always say Mother Nature is the best poet and the best like advice giver. You just gotta like be looking. What are the metaphors that you can get from this animal? What are the metaphors you can get from this plant? To me, they're so much more interesting than if I were to do a Dear Diary, this happened at the club, or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. That's okay, but it's diary writing. It's not anything that needs to be out there. To me, and you know, Robert Frost, I know Robert Frost is somewhere out in the courtyard here. Robert Frost says, no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader. When I'm just doing, yes, when I am, I've never had that reaction before for Robert Frost, okay, that's so great. When I'm just like kind of ranting, that's good and necessary writing, but keep it in your journal. That's what I say to students, keep it in your journal. When I actually want to think about craft and metaphor and music and line breaks or the shape of things, that's when I know I'm making something. And so, you know, oftentimes people forget the word poet comes from the Greek to make, and it is so interesting. It doesn't say make with words. That's just making anything. So you could be a poet in ancient Greece if you painted. You could be a poet if you made a beautiful toga. I'm sure that's not what it's called, but you know, the Greek clothing. You could be a maker if you made baklava, you know, that kind of thing. It's only like fairly recently in the scheme of humanity where poets seem to be this elevated, like, they're in the ivory tower, that kind of thing. Poet just means you're making something each day. So making a pie, drawing, you know, sketching something, making a cool hairdo. That's all being a poet too, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I feel like, for me, it does not need to be prescriptive. Anytime I get stuck and wanting to communicate, I turn to the natural world. The language and the diction is so much more surprising and interesting to me. Even if I'm talking about an annoying breakup from high school or whatever, it's still more interesting if I cast it with birds or a weird fungi or something like that. Yeah, so that it doesn't mean that it has to be for you, but just it's kind of a cool pivot to do with your own diction. Yeah. What else? Then there's a hand somewhere up here in the front. Yeah.
Out of all of your